Morning, everyone. So my name's Wesley Thomas. I work for Anglian Water, and together with my, colleagues, or I can't remember what they call them, but from Northumberland Water, we're here to present the concept of Stream, which is an innovation partnership across many parties across the water sector. We've basically been working on for the last few years about how we share open data within the water industry. Just quickly say, we're hoping to do this with about 20 minutes, and then we'll have questions at the end, if there are any. So, why is open data and why is Stream, important for the water sector? And for us, as a sector, we are under a lot of challenge at the moment. It's been widely populated or on the news around some of the issues or challenges we've had around the sewage networks and spills. And there's an element where we've got to start rebuilding trust with our customers and stakeholders and the wider parties that we deal with. And by sharing data and enabling that, it's a key driver for building that trust up so people can see how we're performing and work through that. It gives us accountability to the public, and the public expect us to do more and be more open about what we do, the data we share, and how we share it. Equally, we've got challenges around our performance and how that performance is impacted by things like climate change, particularly around how we will need to do more as a sector with the money that we're provided through customers, and through pushing data out and allowing the openness of data. It allows other people and other stakeholders to show where we can do more and where we can do more for less and improve some of the things that we do and offer. And then finally, as a provider of utilities, there is always pressures around keeping bills low, and particularly with the cost of living and how we operate as a sector and utilities in general. The amount of money that we have as organisations is finite because customers expect a good, clean service at the lowest possible price and expect us to act responsibility as a sector for that. And again, it's through, data sharing and openness to that data, it helps us drive the areas where we can be efficient and have improvements to help maintain that, those levels of low customer bills. So just a background to the sector, we're a highly regulated industry. The main regulator, the economic regulator, Ofwat, drives the amount of money and the water sector can make and the amount of investment that we need to make within the sector. But equally, we've got other regulated bodies like the Drinking Water Inspector who ensure that we operate standards which are within clean and, The Drinking Water Inspector make sure that we offer a quality service where water is, and the risk of treating and maintaining water is a level which is the public accept. Equally, we've got commitments to the environment and through the Environment Authority, Environment Agency, which make sure that we are operating within the accordance of the rules and legislations that we have to operate as in a sector. As an industry, we've been sharing data for many years, but that's very much at the reactive level. So when people put requests through for particularly environmental performance with the environmental information regulations, these are like freedom of information requests to water companies, and we're expected to provide that data out in a time and space. Now, as I say, that's a very reactive place, and we need to get to a point where we're being more proactive with the data that we're sharing. As an industry, though, we are getting there and we are doing things. We're starting to explore data hacks, and we've done several of those over the last few years. However, when it comes to those data hacks, a lot of those of what we do, the data is shared between stakeholders and parties under NDAs, and then what happens with that data after those data hacks is actually it never really comes to light much further. And actually what we need to do is create a vehicle which then enables for those things to basically have a bit of legitimacy. The value that we think we get from those hacks and what we consume from them actually means that they have lasting impressions. And as a sector, there's various levels of capability between organisations and I guess the water companies involved. We've got some very small water companies that have many people with many hats that do lots and lots of different jobs, and then through to bigger companies where we've got teams of data, I guess, engineers, scientists, who can then really push data out in different ways. So at the smallest thing, or smallest common data, people are pushing out Excel reports. At the largest areas, people are pushing out APIs. And what we need to do is try and get people onto a level playing field where we're sharing data that doesn't provide a barrier to entry. So the smallest people can share the data in the same way, the same standards and ability. But equally, the people who do have the greater capabilities are equally able to share that data in a particular way. So, Stream. Stream is a consortium of water companies and other partners and experts who have experiences of open data. At the moment, there's 16 of the largest 18 water companies are part of Stream, and over the last year, we are bringing more and more companies on into Stream as the initiative rolls through. Equally, we know that we couldn't do it ourselves, and actually there's some learning experience between how we make Stream work and make sure Stream is appropriate and provides the values that we think it does. And therefore, bringing partners through, like SEER, the Open Data Institute, Icebreaker One, for example, gives us that, I guess, accountability and, I guess, the challenge to make sure we're delivering things in the right way and delivering Stream in the right way, but equally, it's got that governance and that independent thought to go, why are we doing this, how are we doing this, and just making sure that we're challenged and we're doing what's right when it comes to open data sharing. And then equally, Stream isn't just a closed shop for the water industry. We've engaged with a number of different, I guess, stakeholders and agencies, from Environment Agency, British Water, Ofwat, to make sure that we're creating something that really works for the industry and the sector. So, a brief history, and I'll try and not steal the thunder of Melissa and Andrew. Stream has been going for about 3 years now. It started with a vision just to try and make sure that we'd go on the right track. It was something the industry would need and could run with. And then that vision was turned into, I guess, a case for funding through the Ofwat Innovation Fund. Over the last year, we've been running a blueprint about telling Ofwat and telling wider people what Stream will be. And then that was funded last year, and Stream as a concept is now kicking off, ready to go live later in the next few months, April and May time. What's happened in that period of time is that we've learned and we've tried to experience and test what we're doing to make sure we're doing the right thing. And we're not, even though we're going live later this year, ultimately we're testing and we're MVPing to make sure that what we are going to provide is doable by the water companies, but equally accepted by the people and the stakeholders that we think are going to get value from it.
Cool. So I'm going to take you through what is behind the name Stream. So what are we actually creating? So individual water companies will be publishing data to their own regional priorities, or they may come together to facilitate collective data publications. So the same data from multiple companies to create a national picture. So they can either publish directly to their own portals, or we will provide a facility for some of the other companies who wish to upload data directly to Stream as a platform in its own right. We'll also connect to the catalogues of other data sharing infrastructure, and in this example, DEFRA's data service platform. And that's so that related data sets are much more easily searchable. So if we're publishing data, you want to be able to find related data sets that may or may not belong to the water sector. And the reason we've facilitated this kind of hybrid approach to the architecture to either decentralized or centralized publication is that, as Wes said, the maturity of the sector is very varied. And what we don't want to do is create any barriers to publication. So we learn through doing, as a sector, we learn together. But we have to appreciate that everybody has different starting points. So whilst we ultimately want to go for more decentralized data publication and just catalog it via Stream, we appreciate that we are going to need to help organizations by providing that lowest barrier to publication possible. So Stream's also working to put standards in place. So we want to standardise the way data is described, the way the data is presented, but we also want to standardise around the licences that they are published with, because nobody wants to run through a load of different bespoke T's and C's as to whether they can or can't use data. So we'll standardise and simplify the licences as much as we possibly can. So that means adopting a single open data license condition, for example. But we'll also help users, publishers, understand which license type is most appropriate to the use case and the data set that they're wanting to publish. Stream's already identified and engaged with a wide community of potential data reusers. And we have, as a result of that, we have collected a long list of potential use cases and data sets that the industry could collaborate around publication. And we created a website because this is our main means of communicating with that ecosystem of potential users. And through that website, we'll not only enable users to easily find, understand and access data sets, but also to see some information about the challenges and the context around the water sector challenges, as Wes has articulated. But we also want to provide support function to those users, so a two-way interaction to enable people to query about the data or about the background context to that data, but also to communicate with each other. So how can you enable collaboration through that platform as well as the support function? So there will be a formal support function backing off that back into the water companies. So if people have got specific queries about the data, they can ask them. But we also want to be able to enable people to share what they've done with that data if they want to. And that then is enabling the sharing of ideas, might spark new ideas, new use cases, new data sets to be published. So we really want that to be a two-way interaction as much as possible. But Stream's more than just publishing data. Actually, Stream itself is a community. So we do this together as a sector because we learn better as a sector. So the sharing of best practice becomes normal practice. And that means we can go faster, safer and more cost effectively. And that is important for both the sector, our stakeholders and our bill paying customers. So we intend to have shared visibility over our own individual publication pipelines, so that if one company says, I'm going to follow this use case because this is important to our regional priorities, then if we share that visibility across the sector, then other water companies can say, well, actually, we have that same challenge, so we're going to work together to publish that data to a set standard. So we'll establish the first pass at a standard for publishing that data. And then the success stories off the back of individual companies having published that data and receiving some value back or generating value out for economy, society or environment will enable other water companies to then also publish that data to that same standard and take advantage of that innovation or product, service or whatever's been created off the back of it. And that enables a neat accelerator to scale. So it doesn't mean that we all have to move together. We can work and benefit from the innovations that are happening across the sector. The underlying philosophy of Stream is that together we go further. So from the very outset, from that timeline that Wes just showed about, from the first conversations in 2020, this has been all about collaboration across the sector and collaboration with our stakeholders who we think are going to be interested in this data. Because together we can generate more value. I'm going to pass over to Andrew now.
Thank you. So I guess one really good thing is we've actually done something now. We've been talking about this, as Wes says, for quite a while. But we made a decision that as soon as we got the funding through, one of our first priorities was to actually get some stuff done, get an MVP built and get some data live. So we're really pleased that we're able to release some data. On a relatively simple website with a few features there, but we actually got some data sets out there in December. And we've learnt so much from that, from going through the process of how a water company has to go through their internal governance to get sign-off to publish data, how we go about standardising a data set across so many different companies. So just kind of going through the motions of doing that really early on in the project has been really, really valuable and has set us up really nicely for the next stages that we're going to do. So that's there now. Streamwaterdata.co.uk, the QR code's on screen, and we'll share it again later at the end. So really, really keen to get feedback and get people hands-on with the data sets that are out there at the moment. So we had kind of got three main areas that we're focused on. One was the MVP, which we've got over the line, and that was about looking at low risk, low complexity data sets, not using what will become our enduring platform, just getting something up there really quickly to try and inform what we do next. We've now moved into the next phase, which is actually building that enduring platform that we're going to have in place. So we can do higher value use cases, and we can set up a proper operating model that will enable us to endure. And then the later phases of the project are about getting into an embed and sustain phase. So getting to a point where this becomes business as usual for the water sector. So we're continually reviewing the backlog of use cases, continually releasing new data sets, continually engaging with those community of users out there that are really keen to use this data set and make sure that what we're delivering is the stuff that's adding value. So we can continually make this just part of business as usual, not some kind of one-off innovation project. So the other thing that's really cool is we can now start talking about the actual data sets that we're releasing. It's not just theory of at some point in the future we'll do some open data stuff. We can actually talk about the stuff that's out there now, which is around annual performance tables, which were typically scattered across water company websites. They had an obligation to publish them, but they were buried kind of deep in websites and was a real nightmare to find. We've just centralized all those and cataloged them so people can find them. We've put some simple stuff like the water company boundaries, so people can use that as a geospatial layer. You can use it for visualization, just having that kind of centralized and available. And then a new data set that hadn't been released before is around domestic water quality. It's something really common that people ask water companies, what's the water like that's coming out of my tap? How many samples do you take? What's the range of parameters that you're measuring for, and what are the results for those? So we want to get that data out there. It's had to be anonymized a little bit. We can't give full customer addresses in there, so we've done it by area, but we've got that data published for 2022, and we're hoping to do more data around that in future. And then our day one service that we're hoping to go live in April. We're looking at a few more high value data sets, looking at things about water consumption data. We know that there's huge pressures on the water sector. We want to get that data out there so people can see what consumption patterns are, potentially come up with some innovation or different routes to try and drive down that consumption. We want to get data out about pollution events. We know there's, again, huge driver for this. It's data that to some extent has been published, but we want to get more data out there so we can really have those open and honest discussions with stakeholders about pollution data. I want to talk about the raw water storage levels. So we know climate change is having a huge impact on the sector. So how is that impacting raw water? How is that differing from historic trends? How is it differing in seasons in different parts of the UK? We think that data should be out there, again, to have those open and honest discussions, but also so people understand the different drivers and impacts on that. And the other one is around leakage data. So we know big challenge for the sector is on leakage. Nightline data is basically the best way to spot leakage. It's what's getting used in an area overnight. It doesn't really change that much typically. And there's a lot of opportunities there for people to get hands-on with this data and try and say, actually, can you spot something that maybe we haven't seen in that data? Is there some different signatures you can spot with leaks that may enable us to get in there and get them repaired quicker? But ultimately, we think that now is the time to really unlock the potential for water data. We know the demand is there. We need to do more around transparency and openness. And we know that we want to build that trust back with our stakeholders. And we think the only way to do that is by just being completely open, getting the data out there and sharing it. And we know that we don't want every water company to do this on their own. We want to be inclusive, so the smaller companies, the bigger companies can all work together. And we want to be efficient by doing it centrally as a single team. It was mentioned earlier about the cost of lawyers and every company needing their own lawyers to look at this stuff. We've got a team working with us centrally, so every water company can do that. So you can spread the load. And the expertise we're getting from people like the Open Data Institute, we can share that across the sector. But also we're working on common problems. They don't stop at water company boundaries. If you want to address river health, that river typically flows through numerous water companies. We need to make sure we're all releasing data, we're releasing it in the same way, and we're working together on solving those problems. And we're looking to build an enduring capability. We're not focused on a single issue or a single data set we want to get released. We want to look across the whole swathe of issues that are impacting the sector and make sure that we're putting a capability in place. And lastly, a call out for you guys in the room, the community of people that are really passionate about open data. We want you to get involved. We've got a LinkedIn channel where we kind of post our updates, and it's a good way for people to interact with us. We've got advisory groups set up where we're looking through either some of the technical aspects of what we're doing or some of the work looking at specific use cases that we're working through and prioritising those. We're keen to make those open. We don't want those to just be a load of water company people sitting in a room or on a video call. Act as a tester on the website. We've got the MVP site up. We'll soon have the Enduring platform. We're keen to get feedback from the user community. Is it giving you what you want? Is it easy to use? Is there any feedback we can get from that? But ultimately, share ideas. We really want to know, what you'd like to see, whether it's data sets, whether it's features. There'll be some stuff that we can't share. There's some stuff for privacy issues or critical national infrastructure we can't. But there's an awful lot of stuff that we can, and we want to work with people and make sure what we're doing is adding as much value as possible. So hopefully, I've done that quickly enough that we've got a few minutes for some questions. So if you do have any questions, we'd love to hear from the room. Yep.
Thank you. One of the issues is that a lot of the underlying data doesn't exist. So I think in terms of things like water quality monitoring in waterways and things, so there's a lot of third parties that are kind of doing their own monitoring and kind of publishing data, or maybe not publishing data. So is this potentially a platform for third parties to also contribute in terms of actually their data?
Yes, absolutely. We're really keen that this isn't just for water companies to publish data sets. We want to make sure that other people can contribute. And exactly on that point of river water quality, it is a thing that does need multiple stakeholders. We need everyone that's taking samples to get that data out there, make sure that can be shared, because it's not an easy problem to solve.
Yeah, one of the use cases that came to our attention recently was a project looking at imagery that's been taken by members of the public around rivers and streams, and using some water classification to spot obstructions or pollution or outfalls and things like that. And so what we will do, we will work with that use case to then make sure that we won't necessarily host the data, but we will certainly be able to connect and point to that data so that people can connect that with other data sets that may be available via the platform. So it's all about sort of like making connections and joining the dots and enabling people to sort of come with a use case in mind or a hypothesis in mind, but be able to easily find data from water companies, but also related data sets that other people may be publishing.
This is a fascinating collection of data sets, and I wondered if any of your use cases are around public artists. Like, I think the sonification of leak data would make a really interesting public art piece.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess that's what we're doing is trying to publish with purpose. So we'll bring data to the platform with a use case in mind. But in terms of the other uses of that data, I mean, it's limitless, and it's beyond the scope of the imagination of water companies. So it's kind of like, by getting the data out there, then we hope to bring people to the data and bring their use cases to that data, which is why Andrew said we're not trying to solve just one problem with this platform. We're trying to use an issue or use a reason to publish that data. But where that goes from there, we hope it becomes limitless. We hope people come to the data and use it, and be as creative as possibly can with it. That's where value gets generated.
Yeah, and I would also say if people do have ideas of things that maybe can't be shared publicly but could be shared peer-to-peer for specific projects, again, we're really open to working with specific individuals on specific projects, even if there's things that we do need to put some controls around that data sharing, but definitely keen to look at any opportunities.
Just a quick question. You mentioned part of what you're working on is sort of the standard data input and metadata component. And I see that it's clear this is a regional aspect of this program, but I'd be curious if what you're developing could be extended to other regions and geographies, and do you ever see this program expanding to include more than just the UK, and would it be compatible with that?
Do you want me to go? So the current focus is UK kind of water sector, but certainly the principles behind it could easily be extended to other areas. I guess the actual platform we're standing up would need to look at how it's funded if we did extend it beyond that. But absolutely the principles, and we want to share the learnings that we've done along the way. And obviously we're going to learn so much in the next 12 months as we move into much more kind of the sort of permanent deployment of a platform and much more kind of impactful data sets. So definitely keen that this is a model that easily can be replicated elsewhere. It is absolutely led by the companies. It's not a regulatory imposed project, but absolutely supported by the regulators.
Okay. Come to you next.
Is there a particular source of data that would be interesting for you to see collected in a citizen science way? You know, I'm a member of like a UK Mon, which is a meteor observing thing where we plug Raspberry Pis in to look for meteors. Is there a similar thing, community, that could be created around water quality?
Absolutely. And I think river water quality is an area where there's got that really good community engagement. You know, this is an issue that people are really passionate about, and we're really keen to work with with citizen scientists, with people that are passionate about that, for them to use our data and augment it to data sets they have, but equally if they've got other data sets they could publish, whether it's manual samples that are taken, whether it's observations that are taken, images that are taken, there's a whole host of potential ways we can address this problem. Because if it's just going to rely on water companies deploying many thousands of pounds worth of sensor equipment in rivers, we're only ever going to get a small proportion of it covered. You really need to get as many people involved as possible.
One of the things we did, I think it's a couple of years ago now, was one of our data hacks up at the NWL Innovation Festival, was bringing communities, students, companies in to look at a subset of water company data, and some of the ideas and things that came out of just those 3 days of the hack was really, really powerful. And that's the type of thing that we want to sort of see as, I guess, as a real success for Stream, is going, actually, here's something that we never thought of that then can either be shared to other groups of stakeholders or back into companies, so we can then improve and offer and change the services that we offer because of that. And we've got ideas, but they're nothing like the blue sky thinking that you guys can do.
Sonia, do we have time for another question? Okay.
Hi, pretty amazing and ambitious project. My questions are: are the data standards that you're doing open, and can we see them? And also, is the code of the platform open source?
So the standards will be, yes, and they will be on that. The platform itself is a proprietary platform it's a SaaS platform hosted by Esri, just purely to get it stood up and working quickly. And there's obviously a lot of geospatial aspects to it, so it felt like a really good fit. They're really passionate about the environmental projects that we've got as well. But yes, absolutely, the standards will be open. The list of use cases we plan to publish openly as well, so people know what's in our backlog, what's been requested. So yeah, as much as possible, we want to do this in the open. Our blueprint is available on our LinkedIn page. That's been published, and we're keen to put stuff out as soon as we can. If people are interested in working with us on the stuff while it's still in draft form before it's published, again, really keen to have people kind of working with us and contributing too. Thank you. Some really good questions. Thanks so much.
Thank you.